everybody. Lovely to see you all here. I'm just seeing, I think it's just on 8:30 now. Okay, so I'm waiting expectantly because we have load shedding back again in South Africa, and the electricity is supposed to go off at 8:30. But I'm all set up to carry on if that does happen. Just my camera won't work so well, but I'm planning to switch my camera off anyway when we start the webinar. So just bear with us if there's any disruptions, but it should all be quite smooth. Okay, so we'll start off just doing the usual connecting exercise meditation, just to get everyone centered and on the same wavelength. And then we are going to be feeling the love, respect, and joy that I've been talking about over the last few months. And I'm going to guide you into those different energies to see so that you can feel exactly how it works. Okay, so you can just gaze into that beautiful photograph of Mandla and Zaira head to head, sharing their love and respect and joy while I switch my camera off. And you should still be able to hear me well. Okay, so just get yourself very, very comfortable. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in and slowly breathe out. And as you start breathing deeply and slowly, just feel yourself start to relax and feel your feet firmly on the ground. And as you breathe, take your focus down to your heart space, your heart center. And imagine your heart as a set of lungs, and the air that you're breathing is the energy of love, that feeling of absolute, wonderful, beautiful love. Breathe it in, the love of nature, the love of the universe. And then breathe it out, sending that love to all those who are around you, to the other beings in the room with you, maybe your animal friends. And then move outside to all the nature beings around you, including the insects and the plants, the trees, the grasses, the earth, the minerals, the crystals. Feel that wonderful connection that we have with everyone, with all beings. And now send that love out to all of those who are on the call this evening or at this moment, and all those who will be listening, perhaps to the recorded version at a later stage. Feel that wonderful connection that we all have with each other. And feel safe and protected in this connection. You're in a very safe space at this time. And as we breathe in and out, breathing in the love and breathing out the love, we're clearing the space of any negative energies, any feelings of heaviness. Just clearing that out and transforming it into a lightness. And feel your whole body filled with this beautiful light energy of love. unconditional love. Take your focus back to your heart and then back to your breath, your physical breath. Feel your feet firmly on the ground beneath you. Just become aware of your body and the chair you're sitting in or the ground beneath you. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, so I hope everyone is feeling grounded and centered and positive. So the focus on today's webinar, as you know, are the keys to connecting with other species, the keys to connecting with all beings. Now, for those of you who have followed my work, and I think most of you do know my work, I always speak about love, unconditional love. And that is the pure energy that connects us. I've just put down a few of the key points that we're going to be discussing on this webinar. So love connects, and the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. And that is what disconnects us from each other, from all beings. Fear is an incredibly diversive feeling, energy, and it can really disabilitate people. And the only way to overcome the fear is through the energy of love. It's really important, I think, generally in life, not just when you're wanting to communicate with other species, but to be aware of your fears, be aware of what you're afraid of, and acknowledge them. Because most of us will know that we're afraid of something and won't even think about it. It's like too scary to think about. And so that fear sticks with you and stays in your body. And it'll come out at the worst times, and really stop you from being the full, true being that you really are. So I find, and it's really helped for me, that if we acknowledge what you're scared of and then see it, we're going to be doing an exercise later about fears and transforming them with love and with joy, and really know that you can transform them. And when you're thinking about that fear, think about the positive alternative to whatever you're afraid of, or the positive outcome if that fearful situation actually had to happen. So those are just a few points that I want you to let settle into your body while we move on. So we know the energy of love is what connects us. So what is love? And sometimes I think for the human language, love can be a bit of a dirty word, because so many people struggle with the human concept of love. All of us want to be loved, need to be loved. And that's not just the human beings, but all the animal beings. All of nature thrives on the energy of love. And when I'm talking about this love that connects, I almost want to call it a divine love instead of a human love. It's the love that the Creator has for his creations or her creations. It is unconditional. So it is not a needy love. It is a love that means that you will love that being no matter what they are doing, no matter what they look like, no matter how they behave, no matter what actions they have taken, no matter how they feel about you. It is something that is completely unconditional. And just in my work with animals, I come across people who love animals, well, they say they love animals, but then they want to change them to suit their own ways, to suit their own lifestyle. And that, I mean, that's a whole other subject, but that is not an unconditional love. That is not a love that connects. That is a love that is more of a convenient kind of love, wanting to have the animal energy in your life, but not wanting it to be inconvenient. So when the horse doesn't jump when your little girl tells it to jump, or him or her to jump, then the horse has to go, even though you love the horse. That is really not, that's a convenient love and not the love that connects. It is also a non-judgmental love. And, so what I'm talking about here is not about judging, well, I've said not judging people or beings for their actions, but also not pitying. The energy of pity can be very debilitating as well. So when you are seeing a being that seems to be in a pitiful situation, the moment we start feeling sorry and putting that pity energy onto that animal or that being, it's not going to help. It actually makes the animal or being feel even worse. So we can love someone wholly and not for their circumstances. Love them for their essence. So an animal that's in a bad situation, perhaps encaged or really not in the ideal situation, doesn't mean that the animal is less of a strong, beautiful spirit. Their circumstance might be, but we can work with this unconditional love to empower that animal to feel better. And that is something that you can try whenever you come across a being that is in a situation where you immediately start feeling sorry. Of course, we're all going to start feeling sorry for an animal or a person, or even a tree that is in a bad, unhealthy situation. We do feel sorry for that. But if we stay in that energy of feeling sorry, it doesn't help, that energy of feeling pity. What we need to do is move out of the pity and into that energy of love. And then that moves on to the energy of respect. So the love that I'm talking about as well, what we as humans want to do when we love something, we often want to touch them. We want to be near them and cuddle them, especially if it's a beautiful, sweet little kitten, or how many people want to cuddle a lion cub, and what has that led to? That's led to a really awful industry of cub petting, which, if you follow my work, you know all about that. But love and respect needs to go together when we are connecting with other species. So that means giving space, both physically and also emotionally. Sometimes pouring that needy love, the love that you want that animal to come close to you or connect with you on the same level. Because sometimes when we feel like we want to connect with an animal and that animal's a little bit shut down or busy doing something else, or just being a wild animal or being a dog or a cat and not engaging with us, or not seeming to be engaging with us, we become needy in that connection. And again, watch that in yourself, so that the respect, the loving respect and the respectful love is what connects. So it really is about putting your own human needs to one side. And together with that is trusting the animal. So with the respect comes the trust. And respecting that animal for the wise, intelligent being that he or she is. And I talk about animals, but it really is about all beings, plants and trees as well. Trust that they have heard your message. Trust that they understand how you are feeling. And when I was putting these points down yesterday, when I was putting this presentation together, something came to me, an incident where I've just been up at the White Line Project teaching for a week. And there was an instant where we were out with the lions, and all four of the lions, the two white males and the two white females of the one pride, were feasting together. And they had been seen in the morning by one of the security guards in the specific place. And so when we went there, and we expected to see them all together, but we only saw three of them. And the one female was hiding away, and she had been very elusive over the last few months. So we sat there, and everyone was really wanting to see her. This is Swalu, if anyone knows the lions at the project. And so we were giving her the opportunity to come out and to show herself to us, but she wasn't. So instead of calling her to come out, and this I've explained to so many of my students, and just generally when we are working with wild animals or any animals, we invite them to come and be with us. We don't call them with an energy of need. We need to let go that energy of need and really just hold that space of openness and see what comes. And Swalu didn't come out to see us, even though we were holding that space. And then the person who was driving the vehicle said, well, we could just go a bit closer, and if we go round the corner, we might get a glimpse of her, because it seems like she's in that area. But we could have done that, but then what would that have been? What would that have done? We would have almost broken our promise, because we promised to stay here and we invited her to come to us. And if we had invaded her space without her wanting to be with us, that meant that we weren't trusting that she didn't need to see us at that moment, and it wasn't the right thing for her to come out and see us. So that's why I've put that line there, keep your promises. When we are communicating with anyone, whether it be intuitive with a tree or with another animal being, and we say that we're going to do something, out of that energy of respect and love, we need to do it. And we need to keep our promises, because if we don't, then that element of trust has been compromised, and that energy of respect has been compromised. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. And then we get on to the energy of joy. Now, this to me is one of the most vital energies in this work, because without the feeling of joy, we can get so stuck in the heaviness that this work can bring. Because, when we are wanting to help animals, most people enter into this world of interspecies communication because they want to make a difference. They want to change the heaviness and the suffering and the pain that the natural world is going through at this time. So, and when we connect in with an animal that has gone through painful situations, and so many animals have, I mean, on every level, not just a domestic animal that's been abused, but if we look at all the areas in the human world, the farm animals, the wild animals. Humans have really taken advantage of the power that we have and really dominated nature and the animals in quite a horrific way. And us humans that are sensitive to animals and love animals and nature, we feel that pain inside our bodies. We really, really do. And I know you can all understand that, and I know you've all felt that. So without the joy of life, without the joy that is in nature, it would be very, very difficult to continue with this work. And so that is why I've brought it in. So when we think of joy, what does joy mean to you? What makes you feel joyful? And for me, there is so much positivity in nature, in the natural world. Just I'm very, very fortunate that I live in a place that is surrounded by nature. And of course, I work with wildlife, working with the baboons. There's so much really horrible stuff happening with the baboons. But when we sit with them and we find ourselves in wild places where the baboons are able to be their natural selves, and you see the babies playing, and you see the mums kind of admonishing the babies and grooming each other and loving each other, the males and the females and the whole family working together. It is such a joyful feeling. And that is what helps me to carry on with this work. I'm fortunate enough to be able to go into the wild places where there are still wild lions roaming free and in a protected space where we know they're not going to be hunted, where they have a really wonderful team of people that are keeping them safe. And there's a joy in that. There's such joy in seeing them just being wild lions and then seeing all the other animals around them. In my last newsletter, I just shared the experience that I had when my husband and I were in Hermanus, where the whales are come every year around October, November, and we really thought we'd missed the whales. We'd heard that there were still a few in the area, but when we were walking out to sea, there was very little sign. Walking out on the cliffs, there was no sign of the whales, and I had this need in me to see the whales. I really, really wanted to. I hadn't seen any whales that year because I'd been away during the whale season out of the country. And I just get so much joy from seeing them. And we were looking out to sea, and I just said, and I even said it out loud, I said, imagine if we just had a whale leaping up in front of us, like, right here in front of us. And then I felt myself get needy for that. And then I just let it go. I just breathed. And then I just felt the joy of actually being there, being by the seaside, seeing the seagulls and the beautiful sunshine. And I felt the joy of just being there. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw this movement and I thought it was just the seaweed. And then it moved so that I could see it. And then we saw this mother whale with her calf, and they slowly moved towards us. And then the little baby started, well, it was quite a big baby at that stage, getting ready to move down to the Antarctic. And he started leaping out of the water right in front of us. And that was just such an incredible experience and so joyful. So that's where I've said here, the more you focus on the joy, the more joy you bring into your life. And that we know that how energy works is if we are focusing on the negative, on the heaviness, on the pain, and on the suffering, we actually are creating more of it, because every thought, every feeling, every emotion is given off us as a specific energy frequency. So you can imagine the frequency of pain and suffering is very heavy, and a low frequency, a low vibration. But the energy of unconditional love and respect and that high energy of joy is light and just vitalizing, revitalizing, and a very high energy frequency. So when we focus on that high energy of joy and love, that can overlight the pain and suffering, that can transform the pain and suffering. But if we get stuck into the pain and suffering, we just get stuck into it, and it's very difficult to transform it. So, of course, we need to acknowledge the pain and the suffering. It is there. There are the physical realities of life at this time on this planet. And a lot of it is very difficult to handle. But when it comes into your awareness, know that you can transform it by finding the balance and focusing on the joy of what would that animal be if he was free, thinking about the whales, and the whale hunting, the dolphin hunting. When that comes up into your awareness through an email or through a petition or through Facebook, yes, you do what you can to sign the petitions, but then visualize the positive alternative. Visualize those dolphins and whales being free in safe waters. Visualize the farm animals being in a sanctuary or being treated with respect. See the positive alternative. And that means we can transform things and create it into a reality. The fear comes up when we are thinking about, when we get faced with all those dreadful photographs of abuse. The fear comes up in ourselves of this terrible situation. Oh, what happens if we can never change it? What happens if, to those animals, if we can't help? And we start feeling helpless and hopeless. And it's then when we lose hope that we can stop being these agents of change that we are here to be. We really are. We're here to be these agents of change. So it is a matter of having faith. Of course it is. And believing in this work and believing in yourself as well, that you have the strength to do this. You, as that one human being, are able to transform a situation. And of course, when we come together as a group and we focus on transforming one particular situation, we are even more powerful. And that's why these global prayers for the lions that I've been organizing and that we've all been joining and working with have been so powerful. And the one that we did on Sunday, I have no doubt is making a difference. And I'm hoping everyone is still continuing to hold that energy of the protected space of nature around the Kruger, because the work that you're doing here is so vitally important. And the more we do it together, the more powerful it becomes. So I'd like to share a message that I received from Mandla when he was still in his physical body. I think this was in 2014 when I was with him. And Mandla is the White Lion elder who was rescued from a canned hunting operation where he had been hand-raised, petted as a cub, and was very loved seemingly loved, human kind of love by his owner. But then when he was 8 years old and in his prime, he was going to be put up for a trophy hunt, because it would have made his owners millions of rands, hundreds and thousands of dollars. And then, fortunately, he was rescued by the White Line Trust. And he came to be at Sau Conservancy, and he ended up having a family of his own, roaming free. And this picture is actually just before he was released from his acclimation boma, which is, you can see the green on either side of the photograph. Those are actually the bars of the gates that he was going to be walking out of. So this was as he was on the verge going into freedom. And then he lived another 10, nearly 11 years in this freedom before he passed of old age. But this message he gave to me was about joy. It was a much longer message, but I took these words that I received from him, or the words that I translated from the energy I received from him. So there is such joy when everything is in balance. And we can all focus on the balance because it is there. Mother Nature is always balancing the scales. And this is what this is all about, this life, getting the balance right. So when you feel dejected or depressed in your work and want to stop and escape, remember that balance is there. Feel it. Feel the joy that is there in the robin's song, in the lion's roar, and in the cricket's call. And that message gave me such strength at the time, because there is, the joy that we are bringing out just balances the scales. It removes so much of the unnecessary suffering. It transforms it, getting the balance right. So that to me was such a really, really important message from him, and I've always remembered it. Okay. So I want to share with you a guided meditation now to help you all to transform any fears that you may be carrying with you, and how to deal with it, how to deal with these fears, how to deal with all the scary things that we are faced with every day. So again, I'd like you to sit quietly and relax your body. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in and slowly breathing out. And then feel yourself relax more and more with each breath. And now, become aware of something that you are concerned about, that you're worried about, or that you're afraid of. Visualize it. Feel it. Acknowledge it. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like in your body? And where can you feel it in your body? Acknowledge that fear. See it clearly. And then see it start to fade and dissolve. Now visualize the opposite situation to that fearful one. Can you turn it around? Can you transform it? Turn that fear into calm. Into a feeling of peace. Are you able to step back from the fearful situation and see it as something apart from yourself? Can you see it as separate to yourself? Can you send absolute, unconditional love to that situation? Or to that being, or to that person? So let's try it together now. Move down into your heart space. And feel your heart expanding with all the love you have for nature and for the animals. Imagine the love you have for the most beloved being in your life. Feel that love filling up your heart. Your heart is bursting with it. And now see that fearful situation or image or person or being or animal. See that fear in front of you, separate to you. And now send that love that is bursting out of your heart towards it. Focus only on that feeling of absolute love. And now sense a bubble of joy bursting up from deep inside you. Little sparkling bubbles like in a champagne glass, little bubbles of light. Feel the joy flowing into you and over you and mingling with the energy of love that is in your heart. Now look at that fearful situation again. Can you look at it now without feeling so scared? Can you recognize it for what it truly is? Can you separate it? Can you see that it's separate to yourself? So now, thank the fear. Thank that situation and let it go. So let it go, knowing that if you are faced with something like that in your life, by sending your absolute unconditional love to the people, the animals, the situation, it will be transformed. Now take your focus to all the positive and joyful situations that have happened and are happening in your life. Think of something joyful that happened today, even if it's something really small. Feel that joy and expand it outwards. Feel that love and that joy expand. And as it expands, it transforms any negativity, any fears into the opposite. It transforms all fears into joy and love. Take your focus back down to your heart and feel it filled with that unconditional love, absolute respect for all life, and transformational joy. So feel those three energies flowing through you and entering into every cell of your body. Then see them and feel them flowing around your body and into the room, including everyone around you and everyone on this call, extended outside and beyond. Now just stay in this energy for a while. Slowly start becoming aware of your body. Keep that feeling of joy in your cells, in your body, love and respect. But feel your feet on the solid ground beneath you. Feel yourself grounded. And then when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. Okay, everyone. Thank you for that. And I just before we open up to questions, I just want to speak a little bit about how it's really important to bring the fear to the surface in order to transform it. So, that we often suppress our fears, we suppress anger, all sorts of things emotions that we are not supposed to feel. And fear is something that we do live with every single day of our lives because it's something we've been conditioned to believe in. And, everything from watching the news on TV to traditional religions and churches instill fear in us. So it can be quite difficult to bring it out into the open and actually acknowledge it and see it for what it really is. And there's I always talk about it in my workshops. There's real fears and there's unreal fears. The real fears are the kind of survival stuff, that when you shouldn't go down that particular road because of an intuition, a feeling that you've got. An unreal fear is being told that this place is really scary and having a picture of it because of other people's fears, rather than actually feeling into a situation to see what is real and what is unreal. And I'd encourage you to work through any fears that have come up for you. This was just a 10-minute meditation that I did with you. But if you can start acknowledging what is scary for you and work through it. Face your fears on the energy level so that you don't have to face them in reality. And we do that by transforming that, by seeing the positive in a situation. I've told the story about the hyena that was caught in a snare many times, but I just want to mention that again. What had happened was we'd seen a hyena caught in a snare. We'd put a box so that with bait in it, so that it could be held in this box, which had a trap door going down when it took the bait. He wasn't going in, and when I started working with the volunteers that were helping at the time, I realized that many of them were very scared that if they unrealistically scared. There was a fear that if he was caught in the trap and the vet came, he'd have to be euthanized because it looked so very bad. And I mean, that's kind of not a logical fear because, he's not, if he doesn't get help, he's going to die a horrible death anyway. So I help them transform that fear into, okay, what does euthanize mean? What does bringing the vet out mean? It means that he will be freed. It means that he will be freed in whatever way, if that means free from his body or just free from the pain of the snare. And so they managed to transform that fear that they had into recognizing what it really was. And what it really was their own fear of responsibility, really, for the life of this hyena. But that responsibility wasn't real, that fear wasn't real, and we were being responsible and doing the right thing. And it turned out into a very positive situation with the snare being removed and the hyena being released into freedom again, without the snare around his neck, and going on to have to be with his mate and his pups. So that was just a example of, in a very practical situation, working with people's fears that can influence a situation. So that hyena was actually picking up the fear of the people and that was preventing him from going in to get help. So remember, when you're working with animals in that situation, that to really see the positive outcome in a situation, whatever form it takes, see the positive outcome, and bring your fears to the surface. See what are you really scared of, and then turn them around. Okay. Great. So let's get on to the questions. And I think if you'd want to type your questions into the Q&A section, then I will answer as many as I can on this call. And if there are questions that come up that I'm not able to answer, I will answer them later in the on the page of the webinar, where you'll be able to see comments. Okay. So while I'm waiting for some questions to come up, I'll just want to say how, just thinking about a horrible situation I was in with the parliamentary colloquium around the lion bone trade, which is really an awful industry, as you all know. And just, there was some really horrific images and horrific details that people went into. And I found myself really detaching myself from that. And I think, when I'm saying that we need to acknowledge the fears and acknowledge become aware of what's happening, we also we do need to detach ourselves from that, and in order to focus on the positive. So in order to turn it around, one of the ways I transformed that, I realized that if I had to focus on the horrific details, I wouldn't be able to do anything else. It would just be this pain in my body and this sick feeling of what is actually happening. But I had to acknowledge it just to educate myself about it. And it's one of the reasons why I'm also on this coalition of wildlife organizations, which, it's strings and strings and strings of emails that come through daily and sharing really horrible stuff that needs to be changed. And one of the reasons why I'm on that is because I need to be able to know what's going on in order to see the alternative, to see the positive. Okay. So, one of the solutions that I came up with while I was sitting in Parliament was this global prayer and meditation for the lions, for the freedom of lions, so that I could get a group of people together so that we could do this transformational clearing of Parliament and of the situation. Okay. Okay, lovely question, Melanie. Is it possible to communicate to animals when you know there is a danger to them coming? And if so, how? So absolutely it is possible. So an example that I'd like to use, which happened this year, earlier on this year, or perhaps late last year, was when I was up with the lions, and the neighboring property is actually a hunting concession, a hunting lodge, and there were buffaloes on this property that had, during the last floods, actually got out of the property and gone into the riverbed area, which was sort of common land. It wasn't really owned by anybody. And they had been there for quite a few months. And we heard that the owner, and I put that in inverted commas, of the buffalo wanted to get them back so that he could shoot them, basically, put them up for trophy hunts. And I was there with a group and we knew about this. And he was going to get a helicopter to herd them back into his property, into his land. And so what did we do? We connected as a group to the whole herd of the buffalo. So it's very possible to do that, to connect to one particular group or herd of animals. What you can do is call the matriarch or the patriarch of that group, so the leader of the group, and you can communicate heart to heart, send that absolute unconditional love to that individual or to the whole group, and then visualize them. So what we did with the buffalo, we visualized them moving up away from his land, up further into the river, which was part of a bigger reserve called Kapama, where they do no hunting and the animals are safe and protected there. And we visualized them moving away from his land, and that when the helicopter came overhead, so actually visualizing, seeing the mental image in your mind of a helicopter coming to try and chase them back, and visualizing them going the other way. So, and it worked. He tried to do that the following day or 2 days later with the helicopter, and not one of the buffalo went into the direction of his land. So that was absolutely possible. We know when there's going to be whale hunts at a specific time, we can communicate to the whales to stay out of that particular area. And that is through, if you go onto my website, I have a document that you can download about how to send messages to the animals. And that is how we send messages. You visualize the positive. So you visualize both the danger and a way to escape it. Yes, but you don't focus on the danger. The thing that you visualize is the positive situation. So you visualize them moving away from the danger. And I speak about the sandwich message, which I was taught by my teacher, Amelia Kincaid, who is, and she talks about how you sandwich a negative situation into two positives. So an example is if you scared that your cat is going to go out of your property into the road, you visualize her being safe in the property, you visualize the boundaries, the walls, you visualize the road being a dangerous place, and her a feeling of not being safe, and then the feeling of being safe inside the property. So that's your sandwich method. Okay. What's happened now? Okay, sorry, sorry, I lost all the questions there. Okay, can I talk about the different cure, meditation, visualizing for the overall fears versus the specific fears? Like the specific is your hyena story. The global is, for example, fears about mass extinction. Okay, that's also a very good question, Elizabeth. And you know, the global fears is something that perhaps one would think it's a real fear, but also it's also an imagined fear because it hasn't happened yet. It is happening. We can see all this evidence, so that makes us more and more scared. But really, it's about visualizing a different world. So bringing that fear up, acknowledging it, and then seeing what is the opposite? What will make you less scared? How do you transform that into a less scary image? So that's where you have the hope and the faith comes in. So you see the Amazon forest being restored. You see I don't know if some of you have seen the petitions of where these organizations want to create 50% of the earth as to be protected for nature. So you visualize that happening. People are saying, imagine if we could do this. Visualize it and focus on that rather than the fear of, oh my word, global warming and the climate's changing and all the animals are dying and the planet's heating up. Visualize the opposite and focus on that. So whenever that fear comes in, you just visualize the opposite. Okay. Thank you for that, Elizabeth. Okay. Thank you, Heidi. I'm going to read this out. As an acute empath and a survivor of post-trauma stress disorder, your explanations of real fear and misperceived fear are perfect and purely helpful. Thank you. Your visualizations are crucial for us not to stay in the fear, and not many people understand how sensitive we animal empaths are. Have you experienced that misunderstanding before from humans, since humans are not as sensitive as animals? All the time, Heidi, all the time. Most humans are insensitive to the animal's needs, to other sensitive humans' needs. And it's something that I suppose we need to be, I don't know, armored against. I want to say armored against, but that's also not the right feeling. It's an acceptance of their beings, I suppose, and knowing that they haven't got to the stage where we are, and maybe they won't, and that's okay. But it's really about protecting yourself as well, perhaps. And I'm very fortunate that most of the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis when I'm doing my teaching they are sensitive, and that's why they are wanting to learn how to consciously communicate with animals. So, but I know many people aren't, are in situations like if you're working in an office, you have to deal with people that are a little bit shut down and don't understand what you feel. Make sure that I want to say protect yourself, but even that isn't the right word. Just feel that energy of love and joy surrounding you, so that, and then they will feel it as well. They won't even realize that they're feeling it. And I always say lead by example. So you don't have to convince anyone about animal suffering. You don't have to make them feel it as well. Just feel it yourself and just be strong and be centered, and they will learn from you. So it's really about, being the change and being the person that you're waiting for. The person that we're all waiting for, someone to come and save the planet. We're those people. You are that person. So know that. And the others don't need to be, they don't need to knock you off your center. Don't let them knock you off your center. Okay. Annette, could you talk more about the sandwich method? It really is, it's about not focusing on the negative, but actually informing the animal what could happen. if they stay in that particular space or if something doesn't shift and change. I do that with behavior when, if an animal is, some people say if they don't change their behavior, what are the consequences? The consequences are that they will either be rehomed or, in extreme cases, euthanized. And you need to inform the animal of that. So literally you can, because our mental images tie in with our words, we can actually speak it out we can actually speak it out in words. So visualize them continuing that behavior or staying in that place. Visualize the consequence. Then you visualize them being safe and changing their behavior. Then visualize the consequence. And then end off with they're changing their behavior and then being safe or moving away to the safe space and being safe. So really focusing on the positive rather than the consequences or the negative. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay, I have to laugh at this. How do you feel about asking your cats not to kill birds when they're outside? Well, I do that to my cats. I've always had cats, and I've always let them know that the birds are something that I really love and are our friends, and that please to change it's asking them to be completely different to their natural behavior. But what I do, there's a compromise. We always have to compromise a little bit here. And I say to them, if there's rats, you can hunt the rats, or that's your job. That's all to keep the rat population down. But the birds are precious and special. And all through all my adult life, when I've had cats, they very, very seldom kill birds, but they've really helped with rat infestations when we've had them. So I feel fine about asking my cats, to compromise a little bit, and they've always only killed birds when they're really, really upset with me, and then I'd find a dead dove on my doorstep. If they're upset because I've been away too much, or I'm in a stressful situation or something that is affecting them. So it's always with intent and with a message for me if that happens. So I feel you can ask them, but then you need to compromise a little bit as well. Okay. All right, everyone. So, there's another. Gertie's asking, how do you become attuned to messages from your pets, your animal friends? That really is what I teach in my courses, Gertie. So it really is about working with your intuition and working with that unconditional love. So that's a whole, I can't answer that in in a couple of minutes. It really is about practice. And if you want to learn more, read some books. And my book, Where is Biggles, has some information about receiving messages from your animals. Amelia Kincaid, who is my teacher, has written quite her first book, Straight from the Horse's Mouth, is brilliant. So read up on it. My correspondence courses go all the way from the very introduction to interspecies communication, which is the next step to, now that you felt that feeling of love, respect, and joy, now you can start learning how to use that in order to communicate with animals and understand them. Okay, so thank you for that, Gertie. All right. What perhaps we've got a little bit of time because I gave us some extra time here if there's no more questions. And if people, if you were part of the global prayer 4 Lions on Sunday, I'd like you to just remember to keep that visualization and what it is all about. And those who weren't on the prayer, I'd really ask you to perhaps when you finished here or first thing tomorrow morning, if it's late at night for you, is to listen to the recording and do the prayer with Linda and myself. And it really is about visualizing the protected lands of the Kruger National Park being extended and expanded into the greater system, because the threat, and they're announcing the new hunting laws tomorrow, and we are worried, afraid, which we're transforming those fears, that they will increase the areas of hunting instead of decreasing them, instead of having more protected land. The South African Parks Board is actually suggesting that they even have hunting in the Kruger National Park. Now, that is a very scary thing for me to think about. So what I'm going to do, and what I'd like all of you to do with me, is if you can see the map, it's in the recording. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Otherwise, just see a map of the Kruger National Park and then see those boundaries of protected sacred lands for the animals move to a bigger area. So see the protected space grow and expand beyond the borders of Kruger National Park into the Timbavati Private Game Reserve, into the greater Timbavati reserves, which is including all the neighboring properties of the Tsau Conservancy, right into the Kruger to Canyons biosphere, which is what they're talking about. So see that happening. If you can close your eyes right now and just visualize this beautiful gold and green, sort of green gold expanse, this light of protection expanding beyond the borders of the Kruger National Park and dissolving anything that is standing in the way of protecting Mother Nature in this area. So any negativity, any guns, any greed is being dissolved, being moved out. That the hearts are being opened. And if you want to say the words, may all lions and all animals be free. May all lions and all animals be safe. May all nature be protected, be loved and respected. And now feel the joy of knowing that that is happening. Feel the joy of knowing that those lands, protected lands, are being expanded, that there's more and more protected areas throughout the globe that are being created. more and more animals and nature is safe. Okay. So really just hold that vision. And if you can, watch the recording of the global prayer. It'll be in the Big Marker channel where you are now. And the Animal Talk Africa Big Marker channel. And there you will have the whole prayers. And even if you did join us yesterday, perhaps watch it again if you have the time. Otherwise, just go in a quiet space and do the visualization. Okay. And then just on another note, just to say thank you, all of you, for doing the work that you're doing and for joining me in this very important work. What I'd like to share with you as well, for those of you who are in South Africa, I'll be doing a seminar, on a full day seminar of love, respect, and joy in Cape Town, in the area of Noordhoek. And so just look on the website for the information of that if you'd like to join me in a full day of just exploring these energies. And really being in nature. We'll be near the beach, near Noordhoek Beach, and right next to Noordhoek Common, which is a beautiful piece of nature. Okay. So wonderful. I think now we could end off, and I'll just do a closing. So once again, feel your feet firmly on the ground. Slowly breathe in and out. Close your eyes. And feel the energy of this call this evening. Feel it buzzing through your body. The bubbles of joy, of love, and respect. Feel very centered and balanced. Know that you are an agent of change. Know that you have the ability to transform heaviness into lightness, fear into joy. Know every thought that you have has an impact on everyone and everything around you. Just by being here and by being you, you are making a difference. And you have the power to really make a positive difference in this world, no matter how big or small. And collectively, we can make even more of a difference. Feel that beautiful connection that you have with other human beings on this planet with like minds, all those who want to make a difference, and send love and support to all those beings, the human beings that are working hard to make a difference, whether it is being an animal activist or sitting in parliament, all those that who are following the truth and listening to nature. And now send that absolute unconditional love to all of nature, seeing her in her absolute glory, wild and free. And all the animals that are domesticated, see them where they need to be, doing what they need to be, safe and warm. And see all beings free to be who they truly are. And let all the information that you've received in this hour and a bit just settle into your body. Whether it be from me or from during your meditations from other beings, just let it settle. And take that knowledge forward with you. And feel safe in that energy of love that is surrounding you. And as you become aware of your body and open your eyes, commit to moving into the rest of the day with absolute joy. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for being with me. I see a few people are dropping off now, so we're going to end the call. And I'm going to say good night because it is nearly 10 o'clock at night where I am. And wishing you all the best. And thank you for joining me. Thank you, Janine, for holding this space.
That's always my pleasure. Thank you for sharing your beautiful wisdom.
Thank you. Well, I think it's the animal's wisdom that comes through me. So thank you. And yeah, just wishing everyone a wonderful evening and see you next time. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.